Hey there, Internet friends. Trevor Starkey here with another episode of Movie Monday. This week, I'm going to talk about the recent remake of Beauty and the Beast. I sat down and kind of threw that on while I was working on some other things this weekend, and it's a movie that I wanted to talk about back when it came out and I watched it, but I wasn't doing a weekly movie show at the time, so it didn't really make sense. Overall, I think Beauty and the Beast is a very beautiful and ornate tale, and getting to see it kind of realized again in live action doesn't take anything away from the animated version that I have very fond memories of growing up. There are a couple of choices that I question in terms of in kind of what they may have added or taken away from the piece overall, but it's fine. I don't see it, being as iconic for this generation of children moving forward as the original animated version, but I could be wrong. The kids growing up watching it now, watching it on repeat as I watched the original Beauty and the Beast on repeat, could be kind of inundated with that, and Emma Watson could be their Belle, and that's cool. That's she is a wonderful choice. She's a little lacking in the singing department, but I think she's perfectly serviceable in the role. Dan Stevens you have as the Beast, who, watching this movie, the biggest thing I thought after I walked away was, I would love to see what this movie looked like on set. I would love to see the cut of this movie with no special effects in there. See what it looked like with, Dan Stevens walking on stilt-ish things, and the green screen and stuff, and the motion capture. And they've shown kind of clips of what that looked like, and the all of the magic that goes into it, but that's what would fascinate me, would be seeing what was actually on set the day of shooting, what they actually had to work with, because so much of this is just out there, and it's very overly ornate candlesticks and clocks and cadenzas and whatnot. The music, for the most part, is what you remember. They do a few tweaks here and there, but it is, that classic Beauty and the Beast score and soundtrack. They add in a few extra songs to kind of, pad out some story and add some backstory and add some extra moments to the Beast, which I think is nice. It's one of the things that the Beast kind of loses in the original movie is, he doesn't get much in the way of a showcase to kind of really see things from his side of things, which you get more of, especially in the musical version of the show. And it was interesting that they didn't take the musical version of the show, which they continue to do on Broadway and does well. I think it's still on Broadway. It might not be, but it still tours. It comes through town every few years. They didn't take the extra songs that were added from that and put them in here, which is an interesting choice, I thought. The biggest thing I think that is a drawback for me is how they flesh out the Beast's character. In the original animated, you have the long-running joke of he was a kid, so of course he was a dick to this stranger lady. Why is this kid then punished for that? But here we see the movie opens with the Beast having this ornate gala of a party, and we get to see that he's kind of a dick. And we're kind of told throughout the rest of the movie that he's kind of a dick. So, it makes him a less sympathetic character, until really you get to see kind of Belle starting to turn him. And they throw a little bit of a throwaway in there about, well, his dad was really the one that turned him evil or whatever, but no, that's not really a good pass. And because all of the other servants let him be that way, it makes them all extra dicks by comparison. And what in the original you have as a lovable cast of characters who have fallen under unfortunate circumstances from maybe a witch who was really the bad guy. Here we're given kind of the scope that no, these were all bad people, and some of them have tried to become good in their isolation, but the Beast has just kind of grown more and more of a jerk. And so I don't think it really serves to make any of those characters more enjoyable. It just kind of either leaves them flat or actually brings them back a peg. And so there isn't as much joy and frivolity when we're singing something like Be Our Guest, when, you know, we also have the understanding that these guys were kind of, you know, elitist jerks who, you know, turned away somebody in need at the beginning of the movie and laughed at that person because they were, you know, ugly, and all of these people look hilarious and hideous in their, like, you know, overly done face paint and whatnot. So it strikes a weird note tonally, I think, adding that, like, backstory for the Beast. On the flip side, I appreciated, you know, the extra little bit of backstory between Belle and Maurice, kind of that they, you know, they are new to this town, and they're not new to the town, but they are from outside of the town, so they aren't, you know, a part of the town. They do, because they came from, you know, plague-stricken Paris, they kind of are outsiders and have been outcast, and the town sees them as such. Elsewhere, you have Luke Evans and Josh Gad as Gaston and LeFou, and they have a wonderfully fun chemistry together. Again, the change that we see for Gaston here makes him a more overtly sinister, evil character, instead of maybe just a oafish buffoon whose, you know, rage and anger is misdirected. When he makes the conscious decision to, like, tie Maurice up to a tree and leave him there for dead, you know, that, like, there is no redemption for him, and there shouldn't be. And LeFou goes along with it, so to give him a little bit of redemption at the end feels off. I get that he's, like, the comic relief character and he was just going along with it, but, like, it's a step too far in that direction, I think, for me. Lastly, a lot of the characters who are the, you know, the ornaments and the instruments, like Ewan McGregor and Ian McKellen as Lumiere and Cogsworth, respectively. Ewan McGregor seems like he's in a completely different movie than everybody else, both in his candlestick form and outside in the brief moments that we get to see him, you know, overly done as, like, a butler or head servant or something. Like, he is just, really camp and over the top, and I think, you know, some of the characters at least are a little more understated, and so it feels like they didn't have, people weren't all on the same page. Ultimately, though, it's a beautiful movie with a great soundtrack and incredible visual effects. It certainly, you know, while certain elements feel a little like the Beast doesn't, you know, feel fully realized all the time, the detail that goes into characters like Lumiere and Cogsworth and the rest of them does feel like, you know, you can see kind of the care that was put into making a live-action adaptation of this. You know, this is basically 21st century animation at this point, CGI. The new CGI movies are the animated classics that we had growing up, and this kind of continues us down this path that Disney is doing. They're, you know, telling the same stories they've told before, but now with, you know, the grandest of technology at their disposal. So maybe it's not necessary, but in the same way that there are people who won't play old video games because they don't like the sprite style, I'm sure there are people who don't watch the old animated movies because they aren't computer generated. They aren't, you know, the latest and greatest. So giving people this gives them a new kind of story to see. So those are my thoughts on the 2017 Beauty and the Beast. Let me know what your thoughts on the movie are in the comments below. As always, I've been your host, Trevor Starkey from TrevorTrove.com. You can follow me at SnarkyStarkey on Twitter. And until next time, from here at the Trove, treasure your friends.